Hello everyone, this is Eagle News. I'm Ken Cruz in Washington. It's Saturday, December 16, 2023, here in the nation's capital. The week's recap begins with the United States House of Representatives voting to formally authorize President Joe Biden's impeachment inquiry. This despite the lack of evidence of the president's wrongdoing. Bruce Balmeo tells us more.
U.S. House Republicans voted 221 to 212 along party lines to approve the impeachment inquiry into Democrat President Joe Biden. Biden is accused of benefiting from his son, Hunter Biden's controversial international business dealings. This is a move Democrats say as baseless. The White House says the probe is unsubstantiated and politically motivated. The effort is expected to fail to impeach Biden. Even if the House votes to remove Biden from office, the Senate will then have to convict him on the charges by a 2/3 vote. This is almost impossible as Democrats hold a 51 to 49 majority in the Senate. Meanwhile, Democratic members of the U.S. House Oversight Committee call Biden's impeachment vote ridiculous.
Today's impeachment inquiry vote is indeed part of the continuing effort to deny Joe Biden the office of President of the United States. And we saw it happen on January 6, 2021, when Donald Trump incited a violent insurrection to overturn the presidential election, to set aside the work of Congress in the peaceful transfer of power, to disrupt Vice President Pence in the execution of his duties. And they tried to stop Biden from becoming president then. And now this ridiculous impeachment drive continues the effort to keep Biden from being able to do his presidential duties.
Bruce Balmeo, Washington, D.C., Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In other news, the United Nations says a severe funding crisis means fewer people will receive humanitarian aid. In its global humanitarian outlook for 2024, the UN says it needs $46 billion to bring life-saving help to some 180 million people. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
UN Humanitarian Chief Martin Griffiths says war, climate emergencies, and an economic collapse fuel the demand for help. He says those problems are in competition with each other for scarce dollars.
There is no doubt about climate competing with conflict as the driver of need.
Floods, typhoons, heat waves, and drought are on the increase as the climate changes. Just how big a factor are these weather calamities?
Climate displaces more children now than conflict. It was never thus before, and climate will grow.
Worldwide, Griffiths estimates some 300 million people will be in need by 2024. But with a reduced budget, he says the UN can help only slightly more than half that number, about 180 million.
You can imagine what hard work it has been to reduce those numbers, to persuade agencies to come down, to be realistic, to be focused, to be tough-minded.
Griffith says there are a number of hotspots that need assistance. The Middle East and Africa will get the largest total of any region. Another concern he has is for the safety of the people who actually deliver the aid.
There is a pandemic of attacks in conflict on hospitals and clinics and places with that Red Cross, which signified safety, but which now signifies target practice.
Griffiths is calling on the international community to step up. This year, the UN could raise only about a third of its target of $56 billion, one of the worst funding shortfalls in years. He says global support is not keeping pace with the needs, and without adequate funding, Griffiths says people will pay with their lives. Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Meanwhile, back here in the U.S., young people are encouraged to consider future careers in agriculture. This by promoting competitiveness and sustainability of the U.S. agriculture industry. Marcel Feria tells us more.
The Agriculture Department, or USDA, and Agriculture Future of America, or AFA, signed a partnership to promote a common goal. USDA and AFA are collaborating on linking young leaders with career opportunities in food, agricultural science, natural resources, and related fields. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says this agreement reinforces USDA's commitment to preparing students for future careers in agriculture with an emphasis on federal sector employment. The partnership commits the agency to advancing opportunities for AFA delegates to participate in USDA programs, including internships. Rosel Feria, Washington, D.C. Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
The World Health Organization calls on governments to prioritize building resilient health systems. This to safeguard the health and well-being of all people everywhere. Jeff Sanadad on Health is Wealth.
On Universal Health Coverage Day, the World Health Organization underscores the need to invest in resilient health system. World Health Organization Chief Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says these health systems should be based on strong primary health care. This, Dr. Tedros says, is the most inclusive, equitable, and cost-effective path towards universal health coverage. The agency says health systems that can respond to shocks and withstand pressures are crucial to effectively reduce the world's disease burden. These can also help avert the millions of additional deaths each year expected as a result of the climate crisis, avoidable environmental risk, and complex health emergencies. World Health Organization says reorienting health systems towards primary health care will accelerate progress towards health care for all. This approach is expected to help deliver 90% of essential health services and save 60 million lives by 2030. Jeff Sanadad, Washington, D.C. Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In Canada, here's another reason to smile big. Qualifying low to middle income families may now apply for what is described as the country's most transformative dental health program yet. Yolanda Aspiras has a story.
Canada's federal government unveils what is possibly their largest social program. The Canada Dental Benefit aims to help lower dental costs for low and middle income families who cannot afford private health insurance. Applications for this benefit start next week, starting with seniors over 87 years old. As early as May next year, the first claims under this benefit will likely be processed. The federal government says that this dental health benefit will be available to all qualifying Canadians by 2025. This benefit plan is expected to cost $15 billion over the first 5 years. Canadian residents earning income under $90,000 per year who don't have private insurance and have filed their income taxes may qualify for this benefit. The plan covers preventive teeth cleanings, treatments, and removable dentures. Canada's Minister of Health, Mark Holland, calls this a transformative milestone for Canada, as the plan aims to cover 9 million Canadians getting their essential oral health care. Yolanda Aspiras, Toronto, Ontario, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Extraordinary stories from Tamasay likeness today, from the worsening homelessness situation in Los Angeles to eating insects in Mexico to a cowbell dispute in Switzerland. All these and more on Correspondent at Large.
And now news and commentary from around the globe. We start on the west coast of the United States. Los Angeles, the city of angels. What comes to mind when you think of LA? Well, this sign, of course, Hollywood, movie stars, the California dream, the beaches. Well, here's a harsh truth, and it's not glamorous. LA has become the homeless capital of the United States. More than 75,000 people sleep on the city streets. Encampments. You see them everywhere, in Hollywood, on Skid Row, the beaches of Venice. With the rising cost of real estate, Mayor Karen Bass fears the problem is going to get much worse. That's because the moratorium on evictions is coming to an end.
We have housed people over the years. New people fall into homelessness. And frankly, I am very, very worried that that is what is happening now because of the COVID protections expiring.
The number of people in Los Angeles who have no place to live, no place to hang their hat, has ballooned by 70% in the last 8 years. And all this happening in a country viewed by many as the land of opportunity. In Mexico, insects such as grasshoppers may be the key to fighting child malnutrition. They're readily available, high in protein, very little fat, and low in carbohydrates. Nurse Nelly Hernandez says malnutrition and obesity are big problems in Mexico because people's diets are out of whack. Here you see researcher Rene Cerritos mixing ground up grasshoppers with flour. He bakes them into biscuits. These kids? Well, they seem to like them. You know, eating insects is common in many other parts of the world. This past week, the South American country of Chile destroyed more than 25,000 guns. President Gabriel Boric led the event, accompanied by his public safety and defense ministers. The guns were destroyed by a company that specializes in recycling steel. Here you see them being put into a furnace. It's part of Boric's Less Guns, More Security campaign. About 8,000 of the firearms had been seized by police. People voluntarily turned in another 13,000. Boric says this is the largest number of guns destroyed since 1990, and he says it's up nearly 40% from last year. The president says a firearm in the wrong hands can cause violence and insecurity with irreparable damage to society. You know, that's something that just doesn't seem to resonate with Washington. Street performers at London's Covent Garden say the local council is trying to put them out of business. Seems the council wants to regulate disruption from noise and large crowds. The proposed licensing scheme would also prohibit the use of dangerous objects. Knife thrower and sword swallower Peter Kolofsky says, well, that would just end his act and a lot of others.
It's a quintessentially British cultural institution and a huge grassroots success story. I have no idea why the council wants to meddle with something so successful.
Sounds like the local council is trying to turn the garden into a place that fun forgot. And you have to wonder why some people move from the city to the country and then complain about their surroundings. In this alpine village in Switzerland, this is what some people are upset about. What you just heard there is a cowbell. Someone has complained to the village council about a nocturnal disturbance from a herd of 15 cows and their bells. Locals have narrowed down the complaint to some renters in this apartment building. They want the farmer to remove the bells from his cows at night. The complainers, though, appear to be in the minority. A counter petition in support of the farmers has been signed by more than a third of the residents of voting age, more than 1,000 signatures. The matter will be put to a vote by all villagers, expected to take place next June. And I'll be back in 7 days with bells on. And until then, I wish you all peace, joy, and happiness in the ensuing week. Thomas I. Likeness, Correspondent at Large, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
The Perth Filipino dance group officially marks its presence in Western Australia at its grand launch this November. Maricel Bautista on Oceania at a Glance.
Advocating Filipino culture through dance, the Perth Filipino Dance Group shares with a diverse audience the beauty of Philippine folk dances.
The aim of the now officially registered dance group goes beyond the spotlight.
this all-women dance troupe aims to understand more and deepen their connection to Filipino culture through movement. During the dance group's launch, a fundraising event was also held benefiting select recipients at the Antipolo Elementary School in the Philippines and the Perth Homeless Support Group Incorporated here in Western Australia.
Hi there, my name is Sally Palmer. I'm former councillor of the City of Bayswater, on and off since 2007. I'm very pleased to be here tonight on a very, very good fundraising. And this is for the school, the Polo School in Philippines, and also for a homeless group that are also in Bayswater.
I am Jenelyn Luis. I am the president of the Perth Filipino Dance Troupe Incorporated. This is our first event actually, our first dinner and dance event, and also our fundraising event.
The launch is only the first step to introduce Philippine traditional or folk dances not only to the younger Filipino-Australian generation but also to other communities in the country. Marisol Bautista, Perth, Australia. Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Today, you're in for a very sweet treat. In celebration of National Chocolate Covered Anything Day, here are some ideas on how to prepare and enjoy food covered with roasted and ground cacao. Here's Jane Kathleen Gregorio with Chef Melissa Gise.
Whether you like to dip it, spread it, coat it, or drizzle it, there are multiple ways to enjoy National Chocolate Covered Anything Day. Eagle News caught up with Melissa Gise, a corporate chef of over 13 years, as she uncovered the hot topic of covering things with chocolate.
People, when they hear chocolate, they get happy. Chocolate-covered desserts are a way to add richness and complexity to any dessert. They're the perfect way to dress up a meal. When you add chocolate, you can use it on cakes, cookies, candies, fruit, or you can freeze it. I love chocolate-covered gummies. It's just amazing. I buy them. I usually don't make them. The weirdest combinations I've seen, and I've seen people eat, the very weirdest is chocolate-covered crickets. They sell them in Nevada on the highway. Something that is actually good, but you wouldn't expect, is dark chocolate-covered bacon. And it's salty and sweet at the same time, and it's really good. My favorite though is to use white chocolate. It's not milk, but it lacks the bitterness. It's almost like sweet butter.
According to Chef Melissa, you don't have to be a chef in order to master the art of melting chocolate.
For me, my preferred way is called the double boiler method. You take one pot and you put it on the stove or your heating element, and you put water, and then you fit the bowl in the pot so it creates a seal, and you turn on the heat, and the water should create steam. You put your chocolate in, and you stir it, scraping the bowl and turning it over until it's completely melted. The second method you can use is the microwave, where you can put it in a heat-safe bowl, go 10 seconds at a time, open it up, scrape the sides of the bowl with a spatula. If it's not completely melted, do 5 more seconds. Do it in increments. As soon as you see it melted, that's good enough. It doesn't need to be super hot. Once you hit a certain temperature for chocolate, it becomes unusable, so be careful with that. So you can just take things that are in your pantry to make nice chocolate covered treats. It's an extra special touch to whatever you have, and it becomes a completely new dish. I have some old pretzel sticks in the pantry. You know, they're just kind of salty, but you want salty and sweet. Melt your chocolate and throw the pretzel sticks in there. If you have some bananas that, you know, you might have a hard time to finish, dip the bananas in chocolate. Everybody will come after it. Or you could also do strawberries and also graham crackers. And to make it even more special, if you have some sprinkles, while the chocolate's still slightly melted, just sprinkle it and it becomes nicer.
Whether you're hosting a party or just wanting to give your plain snacks a fancy makeover, chocolate-covered treats are a great way to sweeten someone's day. In Corpus Christi, Texas, I'm Jane Kathleen Gregorio, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
And before we let you go, here's our photo of the week. This is the Haleakala Observatory on the island of Maui in Hawaii. It is the state's first astronomical research observatory. Thank you, Marites Herrera, for this photo. Thank you all for joining us again. If there are stories or topics you want us to share with you, just comment below. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and X at Eagle News Live. I'm Ken Cruz. We live in extraordinary times. Stay happy and healthy, everyone.